All right, I'm back. Let's talk about, check on Ranger Dog. How's Ranger doing? Ranger looks like he's doing good. I hopped back on because I had to hop off for a little bit to talk to my boss. We were working on another project that I'm going to be going out to Chandler for a couple of weeks again. Well, maybe only another week or so, getting stuff back up. So I know that I hopped off the other day and didn't get to stream again, and hopped on for a little bit today, but I'm going to try to do a little bit more. We're going to knock some of these out because I have a plan now to make sure that this thing saves in a good format for me so I don't get screwed again with it losing all my data. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to do it right off of here just like it is. So we're going to do the same thing that we were doing earlier. Let me grab I have my document over here on my other page. And this one here is an exception. Aid and tripwire not required. Again, the heart of that is that aid and tripwire are tools that do validation. How's it going, Pessa? Hey, you're going to be ready for your talk in a couple of weeks, right? We talked about that. I think you're good. I've talked to everybody except Ben, I think, to make sure that they're good. So I think everybody should be pretty good. So let's come over here. We're doing aid, and actually I'm going to go ahead and filter here and find everything for aid, right? We'll just grab all of them. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say set that comment to replace all comments. And then I'm going to grab all of these and say not a finding because they are not in our environment part of it. Losing my mind over WGU Capstone right now. Oh, nice. Well, if you need me to review it or anything, Michael, let me know. Also, I don't know if you've been down in the Discord. One of our guys is having a problem with, there was a test at WGU and it sounds like you guys use a third-party tool to run the tests, and then he put in and he like actually told the proctor that he was coming back. There's a whole thing, but he explained it in the complaints section. Yeah, I feel the same way. But if you recall, when I was doing my solutions, no, when I was doing my, what's the one I couldn't pass? I remember the girl kicked me out like 2 different days. She's like, I can't see your ID, and I'm like, it's a U.S. passport. Like, I don't think there's that many people that look exactly like me that would try to take a test for me. Anyways, but there is a problem. I'd show you guys my passport because like passports are, you can show those to people. You have to show them to people in foreign countries. The way my passport is we got it in 2018, me and my wife did. And then in 2028, when it expires, the way the 8 goes, there's like this dark background, and I can see if people didn't know anything about anything that they would think that it says 2020. But anybody that knows anything about passports knows that 2018 goes to 2028, right? Like they're 10-year documents. Anyways, yeah. And I had a problem. I had a problem with a teacher right at the end of my last class, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It was just, I thought, yeah, Robodom, I hopped back on because I talked to my boss, Don, for a little bit. He wanted to kind of debrief me on something and get some work, and then he was going back to what he was doing, and I told him, all right, I'm gonna go back to streaming then. So I'm just gonna hang out here, and I'm gonna knock these Stigs out. I'm gonna start knocking these out because, again, I spent a few hours on these the other day, and I lost all the work because the stupid thing, it'll save the checklist. It's like that old Seinfeld thing. You'll take the reservation, you just won't keep the reservation, and keeping the reservation's really the important part. And that's how I feel about this. Like, it'll take the Stigs. It'll take all the stuff that I put in it. It just won't keep it. And that's really the problem. So, no. It wasn't a false alarm, Robo. It wasn't a big deal. We've got a system we've been building out. And it's been a little behind. But not from me. I'm new on the project. I've just been doing all the Stigs for it. And my Stig stuff has been working pretty well. So, we've got an exception. FIPS not required in this system. This system is actually, I can't tell you guys too much about it, but it's a newer test system for like an archetype of government tools that will probably use it in the future because it's a very high speed type of tool. What I can tell you is these are not findings because we found that they are exceptions. I can tell you guys this. Hold on real quick. I can tell you this part of it. There is a tool out there that you guys can go read about that is kind of part of it. I'll link it to you guys over on the YouTube site as well. And that is, you know, that's Dell's data sheet on this tool that's kind of underpinning a lot of the stuff that we're doing. So if you guys want to go read a little bit, right? We're engineers, we read white papers and stuff. That's not the part that I'm doing. I'm securing the underlying system, but that's the technology that's governing a lot of the rest of it. So, all right. I'm not really looking directly at these vulns as I'm doing them, but what I'm trying to do is if we go look at our STIGs, I'm trying to get this score back up over 90%. And the way I'm doing that is I'm dispositioning things that we've already scanned. So, for example, let's just come over here and some of the things that I know that I have to look at are, well, there's a few ways that I can find them. I can just go look for them here. I can look only for things that have passed. I can look only for things that have failed. One of the ones here that I mentioned earlier is GNOME. So GNOME is not required in this environment. So I'm going to say exception. GUI is not used in this environment. It's a research environment. It is a test environment. It will not have GUI. People will come in and actually submit jobs like a normal high-performance compute, which almost universally is either platform LSF or Slurm. In our case, it's a Slurm technology. I can tell you guys that. But we could go and we can look at these actual tools. I had looked at them the other day, but like if we were running GNOME, we would make sure that the dconf databases are up to date with regards to respective key files. I don't even know what that is in GNOME because I don't use GNOME. Right? GNOME is a GUI program. When I'm in Linux, when I'm doing all the Linux, I am down in command line all the time. I literally, in fact, people come on here sometimes and they're like, "You're using Windows," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I connect into Linux in command line all the time." I don't even think I've ever run for more than maybe a couple months a Linux desktop because I just don't really do anything with them, right? All right, so anyways, let's go look at some of these. So some of these are not required, and I'm going to knock out all the ones that I know that are not required first. So I'm looking at my other notes. I got another note over here of these things, and we're going to go for, let's get rid of that filter, and let's go for SE Linux. I know I don't have to do anything with SE Linux in this environment. In my last STIGed environment, I had to run at least in permissive mode. So if you guys have ever used SE Linux, you know that SE Linux can be disabled. It can be in permissive mode where it's logging but it's not blocking anything. Or it can be hanging out in this mode enforcing. And enforcing, you know, you've got to have your stuff pretty tight. You got to know that things are working the way they want them to. So exception, SE Linux is not used in this environment. In my last STIGed environment, which was an 8.8 cluster, this is a 9.3 cluster that I'm working on. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to set that to replace all of these. So now all of them have that comment. I'm going to hit Control A and I'm going to say not a finding. So none of these are a finding with SE Linux. So that's good. Let's get that out of the way. And that actually knocks off a lot of my overall things now, like my SE Linux and all that other stuff. So let's go over here. We have no smart card. This is going to be so smart card is a package that allows you to do multi-factor authentication, specifically with, I don't have my ID up here, but if you've ever used a CAC, common access card, these are all smart card tools. So exception, smart card not used in this environment, right? So I'm going to capture, I wish I could press up, but all right. Control C. We're going to grab all this. Oh, I don't want the SE Linux one. I don't know why that one, yeah, I don't need that. Although that's a double exception, but I'm not going to bother. We're going to replace all of that, and then we're going to set all of these as not a finding. Because they're not a finding, they have passed. Yeah, Robdom, what program were you? Oh, you were working. Yeah, you were working for a government thing, weren't you? I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah. Robodom was doing some government stuff for a little while. All right, let's go find remove these filters. Let's go find some more. So we're going through. This is the DISA Stig tool. It is the 2.17. You can go download this off of DISA, off of the public site for these. Anybody can download them. There's a little thing that says, "Do you agree?" and then you just agree to it. But you can download any of this. Let's go to TMUX. TMUX isn't required. So all the TMUX things are always around locking a session. And TMUX is not, TMUX is not required. So exception, TMUX not required in environment. In some environments, you have to have TMUX, and in some environments, you have to have VLock. VLock can lock the console and actually cause some real messes. I actually set that in my other environment, and in the 8.8 environment that I was working, and it actually caused some massive problems for some other people that were on the consoles. So I had to back off some of that stuff. Let's go with FA policy. So FA policy isn't needed. FA policy's got a few things. Exception. FA policy. Looks like FAP when you first write it, so don't leave that up there too long. FA policy D not used in this environment. Right. I'll grab that. I'll set it to all of them as their comment. So what I do there is that sets all the comments down at the bottom right there, and then I'm going to set those all to not a finding. So that's good. Get rid of those. And all we're doing is knocking these out. That's really all we're doing right now. I have a few other ones that are useful here to get rid of. File system. So the mounting of file systems. All of these are unused. This environment. All of these are, look at VFAT, USB storage, so we don't have to do any of the storage driver stuff anyways. UDF, Squash FS, JGF, HFS. Squash FS is used in XCAT, and it's used in whatever Cray's solution. Cray was bought by HPE, and then they use HPCM. And in HPCM, they use Squash FS as well. None of these. We don't use none of this crap. All right, so none of these are going to count. So we're going to set that. Oh, no, damn it. Unused in this environment. So I'm going to grab that. That's the one I want to copy everywhere. Replace. All right, so if you guys have any questions about what I'm doing, I am just dispositioning a system that I've previously scanned. The scan result is over here for the system. And you'll notice sometimes when you look at systems like this, you'll notice a lot passed and then some failed. But the failures come from the actual scanning tool, the OSCAP is the name of the tool. And then it's OS scan. It's a weird name considering it's OSCAP, but you'll notice that they failed, but this isn't an accurate score because there's so many things that aren't checked. And all those not checked count against that score. So once you go and you do the actual checked, it bumps you up to like a 90 typically, like around a 90%, and the 90% is pretty good. So that's about where I got the other day when I was doing this. So let's remove all these filters. Let's spell out separate, and this is the same thing. So the separate partitioning is not needed. And look at, so it's home, whoops, nope, SRV, temp, var log, audit, and var temp. Those things are all in both the STIG and in the CIS benchmarks as something that you want to set separate, but we don't need them in this environment mainly because we're using containers. We're using Werewolf, and then it's a container managed stateless node. So the node goes down, the node comes up. We don't care what's on the node. The only thing that matters is those Weka mount points coming in. Everything else can just go down and come up like a trap. It's almost like a trap door. Anything on it is gone. It's like a, if you ever use a bathroom in an airplane and like everything's sitting there and then it goes like that and it flushes it and drops. That's the same idea as one of these machines. In fact, it's very similar to these machines because they're pieces of junk, right? No, I'm just kidding. They're not that bad. Actually, they're pretty high speed systems, but that's not the point. The point is, you know, I'm just dispositioning the security that I've already applied via Ansible. So I did all my scanning with Ansible, and then it's interesting to me. I was trying to show you guys earlier how I generate the remediation scripts in Ansible, and I also write some of them myself because some things are like one-offs and you got to write them yourself. But you're there. Spot stuff. It's live now. Oh, Robedom, is your system's live that you worked on? Nice. All right. Oh, X1 said, thanks for a stream, hat. I'm consumed at the moment. We'll deep dive later. Yeah, you guys are always welcome to come by whenever. And yeah, you guys are welcome to hang out whenever. The most persistent way to find me, I'm really just here to tell you guys that there's a Prolug professional Linux users group. You guys can go hang out down there with those guys. Talk shop. We're at like 2,200 and some change. I mean, I remember in March, right at the end of March, we were barely at 1,000. We crossed 1,000 and we were all super happy. And then something happened right at the end of it was like right at the end of April. Like one of the videos just kind of like blew up on YouTube. It's relative, you know, but it's relative to us. It blew up, and like just a bunch of people started showing up, and we're like, yeah, hang out and do this stuff. Yeah, I probably shouldn't. If the wife caught me, I probably shouldn't be drinking this right now. Oh, I'll be able to go to bed though. I hope. So, let's go. We're still knocking out. Sorry. We're still knocking out the ones that I have as exceptions. So I have no TMUX. I have no screen. I don't need screen. Screen is also locking. So look, I'm going to go grab this. Well, no, it's a little different. Hold on. TMUX. And I'm going to do the same one for these. Yeah. Disable username on screen. That's fine. Paste as a comment. Replace. And then we'll just set these as not a finding. Because any of those things that are like that, we don't care too much about them. Separate file systems. We do need to allow. There's this one that's like, this is always going to be, this next one that I'm going to show you guys, this one in a clustered file system is always going to be, the federal government's always going to say one thing. Systems engineers are always going to say another thing. And I am okay with the government's way of doing things. But if I'm not required to do this, I will absolutely run along in a system as root however I want. But that being said, root almost always has to have, where's he at? Where's it at here? If we take root and then login, there's almost always disable SSH root login. And in a properly managed environment that's not air-gapped, I'm just going to go ahead and toe the party line here. The best thing to do is not allow people to log in as root. Come in as a normal user, sudo up, do the things you need to do, drop out, leave the system. That being said, I will run around as root as well and key things and do whatever I want. But in this environment, we have an exception. Root allowed for cluster management. So root is allowed in this environment to log in. So yeah, we can say that one for this one. Yeah, root can't log in with a password, that's for sure. UID 0 primary. Direct root logins are not allowed. Okay, so these ones here are all going to be allowed for this. Now these ones, whoops, this one's also that. These three right here are something else. These three right here passed. I have this other one when I actually ran the scan in the system, and these ones are all going to get that note. So that note looks like this. Passed on check whatever on July 10th. Not a finding. Boom. All right. Examinations are the entire reason I decided to get out of previous ISO. Yeah. This is not the work I prefer to do, guys. This is not what I do a lot. This is something that I've been pulled in for different things. Oh, X1, nice. Thank you for that on the YouTube side. $10. I always appreciate that. That's the first time I've ever gotten one of those. That's kind of cool. It's like a little message or whatever. That's kind of nice. Yeah, you know, the reason I do all this, as I told you guys, is just to get you guys in here and doing this stuff, because get your hands on the systems, learn this stuff, and it may be, and I hate to sound cheesy about it, but I almost sound like what's his name in the dad in the Knight's Tale, but he's like, you can change your stars. I'm not going to tell you anything silly like that, but I am going to tell you, like, being an engineer can be a very good lucrative career, right? Definitely pays more than I made in the infantry, so that's 100% for sure. All right. Oh, DoD ban. So here's one. This one, we'll remove all the filters and we'll say banner. Banners are weird. Like system login banners, you do really want them for the most part, right? Like we want to. Oh, I loved that movie. It was a great movie. Me and the wife will watch it every now and then. But system login banners are not required in this environment. We run them, we use them. In fact, a lot of us use them to. Like I automatically, when I run scripts and when I do maintenance on systems, I automatically do two things. I modify my banners, always, and I touch Etsy no login. And you say, why /etc/no login? When you touch that file, when you make that file exist in the Linux box, for you guys that don't admin, let me just tell you this. If you touch that, no normal users can get in that box anymore. Only root can. Which is really awesome. It's bad if you're doing that root thing. You can set users to be allowed in still, but the point is, it's this awesome way to like just tell the people, because you could send 100 emails, guys. If you have 1,000 users and you send 100 emails, somebody doesn't get that email and still tries to log in on Monday morning, and you're like, gosh, the system was going to be down until noon. We told everybody, we had this whole discussion about. Somebody's still going to come in and log in, and if they can get in the system and the system doesn't have the mount points and they don't have home directory mounted and they're just in a mucked up shell and whatever, you're just going to start getting tickets. And if all the users can get in, it's even worse, right? So we just automatically touch our Etsy no login so no users can get in, right? Anyway, so I'm going to do this and I'm going to say all of these. Let's just go down to this bottom one and say exception, banner not needed in this environment. Now again, we do run a banner in the environment. It's just from our client, who is, so we're a subcontractor typically in my company to other people who directly interact with the government, and in our interactions we have a set of things that I can use to say no, we don't have to set that. Again, we're gonna use banners. I use banners all over the damn place. I show you guys how to set banners with Ansible in one of our labs because it's just so good. It's so convenient to know what node you're in and know what's going on and know if there's maintenance and know if some script didn't run. You can set that stuff right in your banner message. In fact, I really like this. This may be a little bit arduous. Like this may be a bit much for some people, but I actually don't mind this at all. Watch this real quick. What? Some kind of problem. Okay, let's SSH to red one. This is an Ubuntu system, brand new Ubuntu system I built a few months ago. Look at their message of the day. That's right out of the box. I never even touched that. And in my home lab, I don't touch stuff nearly as much. But look at this. It's just what's going on in the system. And then this is something else. It's just all the stuff going to var log dungeon.log. But yeah, this is all this stuff about the system, right? All this stuff that's kind of going in. So there we go. All right, so we've got that. We're still just knocking these out, right? So banners are good. I got a few more. FIPS mode is not required, so let's check for FIPS. I think we already did FIPS. Yeah, FIPS is good. Yeah, so we don't need any BIOS. So BIOS is strange. Let's remove all the filters and then check for BIOS. All right, enable. We'll leave that one for now because that one's not part of the passwords. But let's check grub. And there's all this bootloader stuff, right? Whoops. All this bootloader stuff, but specifically I want to look for passwords. And make sure you set the passwords in Grub. I want you to think about this for a second. We're using stateless nodes. Their Grub comes with them from the cluster. So let me see if I can show you this as an example. In my home lab, I'm running the same cluster in my home lab as I'm running out there on this government system. So I go over here to Werewolf, right? I just want you to think about this for a second. If I do wctl list nodes, whoops, wctl nodes list, right? There's my nodes. And if I rebuild an overlay for that node and turn a node off and bring it back up, so I do like wwctl overlay build for like Rocky 1, I think that'll work. Yeah, so it'll rebuild the overlay. The overlay is the container that's going to be put on that image when that node boots, right? And then I come over here. I just rebuilt it. I come over here to the system, and I'm looking at the actual physical. Well, that's a virtual machine, but this is the actual console of the system. And I just kick it over. I'm just going to kick this node over. I'm just going to say, sorry, buddy, you've been up too long. I'm going to reboot you. And when it reboots here, right, spinning, and reboot, it's going to go pull that new image. Well, I just want you to think about this for a second. Why would I set a Grub password if the password for Grub and all that stuff is contained in an image on the compute node? It's not really needed. The idea of a Grub password is if you were to reboot this box and to pull it up, you could get in through Grub, but you can't. When this box boots up, you're not going to ever see Grub. All right, so you're going to see it's going to pull over the network right now. The box has completely wiped itself. It's going to completely pull that image right here over the network. Look, it's going to say net up. It's pulling. It's going to go and it's going to grab the image, booting via drag cut, and it's going to download a new image. So this is what we call stateless. If I had put a web server on Rocky 1, if I had put, I don't know, anything on that node, it's now wiped. It was like, again, I keep using the example, but this is the best thing I can think of. It's like a trap door, and you were standing on the trap door knocking, and then in the cartoon it went like that, and you were Shaggy and Scooby, and you fell down or whatever. And then when it comes up, it's a full set, the same node all over again. It's the same thing back. So, anyway, so here we go. Watch it. So it's booted up, and all that to say, it doesn't really matter if there's a Grub password on this box, right? It doesn't matter. Because that's being handled back here in the cluster when it feeds that out. So when that system comes up, it does a TFTP pull on port 69 back to this node, and it pulls down all of its files like you just saw in the console right here. And then now it's going to boot, and then the system's going to be in a tempfs mode. Tempfs is basically just using its RAM as a file system. All right, so anyways, my point is exceptions. Exceptions not needed in this environment. So both of those get it. I'll just paste that and replace what's there, and then I will set that status as not a finding because it's not a finding. Now you might say, well, Scott, why don't you make it not applicable? There's this other thing you could do. Not applicable is a very specific thing inside of STIGs. When you do STIGs, you can only say not applicable if down in the guide it says it's not applicable. Like if it says rel 8, 4, and past, this isn't applicable, then you can make something not applicable. But otherwise, you're not allowed. From a stigging standpoint, that's not something you do. All right, let's make sure. I got a couple other ones. So we've got poison. So any of these poison things, especially the slab poisoning, this slows down how high performance compute works when you're dealing with memory page poisoning and stuff. So because of that, we are allowed to exception. Slab poisoning slows processing. We know, so there's all kinds of cool things that can keep you safe in cars, but they don't exactly put them on all the drag racers. And you say, why wouldn't they? Well, because the drag racer is going to go really, really fast. He needs a cage, he needs a 5-point like harness to stop him, and he needs a chute out the back. That's all they need. Like if they're running over like 180 in the quarter, that's all they need. They don't need, they have some fire extinguishers in there too, but they don't need anything else on that vehicle. They need to keep that weight down, right? So we'll take all this. And my son used to drag race. That's how I know that. His grandpa was really into drag racing. All right, we have no requirement for Firewall D. No requirement for firewalls at all. So, no requirement for firewall. So, there are other types of firewalls, though, just besides this one. So I'm going to do this first. And I'm going to go show you the other things that are also not required. Not a finding. We're not overriding anything. The other things that also are also considered firewalls, whoops, are this. IP tables. IP tables are also considered firewalls. And then, so we'll get that. Get rid of that. NF tables. Does anybody know what NF tables is? Some of you probably do. NF tables are also not required in this environment. NF tables are what Firewall D actually works as a wrapper over the top of. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, that's how that works. NF tables it has replaced IP tables in Red Hat 8 and beyond. Well, I'm in Red Hat 9 here. And they have, what am I thinking? Trying to think here. They have, yeah, Firewall D's over the top of it. Firewall D just runs NF tables underneath. That's all it does. So NF tables doesn't matter. Remove the filters. IP tables are also maybe in there. Nope, we got all those. And then what other ones? SHM. SHM is this dev SHM. Not required. Mount options. Not required. Same idea as the other stuff. It's an exception. We can't do it in this environment, and it doesn't make any sense to do in the environment, so we don't do it. And then let's go. There's this other one that we also don't need, which is passphrase. And I don't see that, so that's fine. Passphrase for keys. So when you generate a key and you have to put a passphrase in, most of us don't use that, and there's no requirement in this system to do that. All right, so now the other ones that are going to come up a lot are going to be this other one, which is passed. They already passed the check. So look, I've got 463 disposed. I have to do 943 more. That's fine though. We can come over here and we can see ones that have already passed and ones that have failed, and I have them grouped by severity. So I can just start going and looking through these and searching for them. So over here, like GPG. And then I say, I come look, ensure GPG check enabled at main DNF. And right here, I see that I passed it. So I come here and I passed it on that date because that's actually when I did the scan. This one for local packages, I also passed that one on that date. You guys see how right here, ensure GPG check enabled for local packages, they line up and I passed it that day. And ensure GPG check enabled for all DNF package repositories. I did not pass that one, so that gets set as an open finding. This isn't going to help me now. This is forever going to be lost unless I can get it taken care of later. And see how my score is up around 3307 now. Again, I'm trying to get that score up as high as I can, probably up around 90. And basically my goal is to disposition everything. Make sure that I know where everything is. Make sure I know what are the problems. Sure, Red Hat GPG key. So I can come up here and I can filter GPG. And it says ensure Red Hat GPG is installed, and I passed that. So now I can take that and I can say not a finding. Boom. Gotta head out. No, it's fine, Robodom. Get out of here. I appreciate you hanging out and stuff. I know I'm kind of on a little bit late, and the wife just showed up too. So I'm probably just gonna make this go for an hour, so another 25 minutes or so. You guys can just kind of see that I'm knocking out Stigs, right? This is kind of what I'm doing in this environment. I did this the other day. It took me like 3 hours to get through all this, and I'm kind of kicking myself. Well, I didn't know the tool wasn't going to save, but now I do know the tool's not going to save, so I'm going to export this as a CSV when I'm done. And I'm going to make sure the CSV is what I like, and then the CSV won't change because it's a comma separated value file, and I will feed that over to these other people as my actual proof that this is done, instead of using this tool, which is this is one of, I mean, I've done a lot of stuff with Excel before, and Excel doesn't work as well as this. And now, a big part of this, and Q was mentioning this earlier, the way this should work is I should have been able to import my XCCDF results file, and it should have populated all this for me. For some reason, and I was messing with it the other day, I just couldn't get it to work. I've done it before. How secure is secure Stigs? Well, I mean, if you put all the Stigs on a box and you get a box up around 90%, it's pretty secure. You don't, well, let's just put it like this. If you Stig a box and you get it over 90%, like a casual scan won't show any exposures on that box. Like a casual scan through something like Metasploit or something isn't going to find anything like that it can dig in on, right? And by the way, this is just the Stig guidelines. I also harden boxes. I turn off everything that I don't want running. I lean the box up again because in the high performance compute space, one of the really cool things about it, on top of building like on pretty powerful hardware, is I'm basically building drag racer boxes. The point of this server is to go from here to here in processing as fast as possible. We measure these things in teraflops and petaflops, right? In fact, we can go look. I've shown you guys this before. If we go to top 500, like systems that I've personally built are on these lists, right? Things that I've been a big part of. Back in 2020, when we debuted this, let's go November 2020. We debuted a system that I had been working on. Well, Freedom Doubt. So this is me accounting for something I've already done actually right here. I've already done this work. Now this is just me looking at it. But if we go here and we go into, where are we at? We go to 38. 38 and 39 on this list. Where are we at? Oh gosh, that music's terrible. Alright, where are we at? No, hold on. November 2020. Oh, sorry, no. I take it back. We didn't do our first test until 2021, so. And this, by the way, this was published, so I'm not showing you guys anything I can't show you about systems, right? Like, one, I wouldn't do that, but two, I'm not showing you anything that would, jeopardize. Where the hell? Where the heck is the thing to show me the next 10? We were 38 and 39 on this list. Top list. June 2021. So right here, we'll be 38 and 39. Dogwood and Cactus. Oh, no. 2 people got knocked off ahead of us. 37 and 38. So these were systems that I built out from... So Cray was our original supplier, and then HPE bought them. So then it became HPE Cray on here. But yeah, we built this for the NOAA project. And you can go look. You can go find like releases on these, press releases and stuff. I didn't Stig these. I built the Bastion hosts that get people into them though as well. Might as well build your own OS. No, Freedom Doubt. The thing is, right? You guys got to remember when people do stuff, right? Let's get this out of here. When people build operating systems, right? If they were to just lock it all down, nobody would ever even be able to do anything with it. They wouldn't be able to install it. They'd have to go through like 30 passwords to get into the system, and it would just be absolutely untenable for the average person to ever use an operating system. So and there's a saying in engineering, security is the enemy of productivity, and it's true. Like if just think about this, if you had to set all this stuff up for like a Windows machine, and you were gonna, you're running Windows because you want to play video games and Steam and all that good stuff, and you have to do all this shit before you turn on your Windows box, nobody would use it. So Windows has this certain amount of security that's built in, but for the most part, they let you turn it on and hit next, finish, and then you've built Linux, right? That's been my joke forever. Like that's all it takes to be a Linux or a Windows engineer, right? Is next, finish. But on the Linux side, the Linux systems also come out of the box pretty much just working, but almost all this shit's turned off. In fact, when I ran this, I had like 1,500 things that got changed in the system when I stigged it. And then I had to, what I do is I fix a certain amount, reboot the machine, make sure it comes back up, make sure it still does whatever tests and benchmarks I have, and then I stig more of it. And it's a slow process to get here. You guys are seeing me at the end, and I'm basically fixing my report. I'm making my report look like you want. Do I use quantum in the stigs? No, I don't use any quantum. I don't do any quantum stuff. Nope, nothing cool like that. Let's look for CTRL. Control-Alt-Delete. I have Control-Alt-Delete passed, so I can say pass and pass. Both of those passed. Not a finding and not a finding. Boom. Then I can remove it. And then we had some of these other ones that were also passed. But let's make sure. Okay, so we're up here on severity high. I can also look at just cat 1s and go look at this. So is operating system vendor supported? This is actually not something that's required. I also don't see it over here on the left. No, so we failed this one. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one open. Bootloader. We are not required to do anything. Exception. Bootloader. Not required. Right? And exception, bootloader not required. And then over here, I take both of these, right click, not a finding. Boom, get them out of the way. So if, for example, I have a simulator, live high piece. Nice. All right. File hashes for RPMs. Pretty sure I got that. But I could also do RPM and find that if this one's on here. So I'll come here and say RPM. I have nothing for RPMs. So I think, though, I've got an exception for any hashes. Well, I don't have any exceptions for hashes. But let's look for PKI. Oops, how about CA? We have no requirements for certificates. Oh, hold on. Overalls. Certificates. So I do not have any requirement for using a certificate authority. So I can just say SSSD is... So see how this one says not applicable? I can immediately just go here and say not applicable. When it's actually in there, not applicable is not applicable and it doesn't matter. Messages, however, I come over here and I say, we're not using our syslog in this environment. But I also don't have a certificate thing, so exception CA PKI not needed. So whenever you have a certificate authority, it's public key infrastructure, right? PKI. And in this case, that's not required. So not a finding. Boom. I can remove my filters, and then I'm getting there, right? It's a long kind of arduous process to get all of these things there. All right. And I try to kind of knock as many of these out kind of as I can. So let's do like rsyslog. And I passed all of these, so ensure cron is logging to rsyslog. Boom. Not a finding. Rsyslog authenticates offloads. Yep. And then audit records. Yep. Those are the same. Monitoring. Yep. syslog ng. So I don't see syslog ng here. And I don't see syslog ng service there. So we'll skip that for a second. Our syslog accept messages. Acting as a log server. It's not. So we'll say not running as a log server because I know that it's not. And none of the compute nodes are anyways. So status not a finding. Okay. UDP, yeah, not running as a log server. So it's not doing that. It's not the compute nodes are not functioning as that. Our admin nodes, our primary admin nodes, are doing that, but not these ones. Does not accept messages, so we know that is good. TLS remote log. You don't need TLS certificates. Not needed in this environment. We're not using certs for this stuff. I can set that to not a finding. That's not a finding. Journal D. I don't see journal D. That's installed. Passed. Our syslog is installed. Yes. We actually made a lab earlier that set that up. Enable it. We know it's enabled. Oh. And then it's got the default file, so we know it passed that. Whoops. So, here, offloads audit records, but we also have no requirement for audits, so that's fine too. Boom. Offloads audit records, pass. Boom. And offload audit records, yep. Pass. Remote access methods, of course, yeah. All these things are monitored by default, by the way, if you have the thing on. So, I don't know this from here. So what I can do, though, is I can go jump onto the box, right? And the box I have open on this other window. Fortunately, I can't show it to you guys, but I'm going to SSH to my node. And then in that node, I'm going to say rpm-qa grep-i for syslog. And syslog ng is not there. So these two are not there. And I'm going to say this is actually set up. I know journal D's right. These two are unused in the environment. So they're also not a finding. I'm going to get rid of those. Not a finding, and the reason is unused in this environment. Any good resources to grok bash? If you're trying to get better at bash, I think the best thing you could use is tldp.org. I really do. Like if you tell me like, hey, yeah, my STIGs are not super secure, fair. But again, man, a lot of times you're just checking boxes. Like in an air-gapped environment, you got to remember you're off on an island, and there's only a couple of ways in, so all traffic's already monitored. There's all these other things in place, and then what goes on in there is, I'm telling you, like the way we set up our high-performance compute clusters is just a few nodes are sitting there to run jobs on all the other nodes, and it's almost like they're just setting up. Like, have you ever seen those little slot car racers? You guys ever seen those? Where they put the little car down in, and they pull a little trigger and it sends electricity, and the car races at like 300 miles an hour if you were to convert it up to like a normal size. It's super fast. And that's what we do with our servers. We just set them down and just race them as fast as we can. So, okay. All right, so we set this all up. And okay, so I'm good on all that. So I'm gonna drop the rsyslog tool as a filter, and we're getting there, right? And we can check the STIGs at any time and see how compliant we are. We're at about 34.66, so we're very far off, but it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while to get to where we want to be. I tend to do this again through filters and stuff. So let's drop our rsyslog off, and let's go to. We could do Kerberos next, right? Kerberos has remove the Kerberos server package. We are not using Kerberos. Disable Kerberos by removing host key tab. And this passed on that check. Right? Not a finding. Well, we removed it. I know we removed it. Mount remote. I'm just going to say Kerberos not in use in the environment. Control A, Control C. Here, here, here. Set that status as all comments. And then here, 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 and here. And set them all as not a finding. Boom. One bit more data about tacos. I have no idea what that is. So, we come back over here. And I'm just looking for the largest swaths. Uninstall. Uninstall. Boom. Let's get rid of our Kerberos. Remove that filter. And here are things that I know we removed or didn't remove before in the environment. So if I come over here, I say uninstall. And for some of them, I'm just going to be able to run through them real quick and like knock them out. Some of them I'm going to have to go and check the system again because again, this thing didn't keep track of it for me. But uninstall GeoLight 2. I know that. Well, let's skip that one for now. IPRS utils. Boom, it's gone. And not a finding. KRB5 workstation. I don't see it over there. I'm gonna skip it for now. Tune D. I know tuned is gone. So tuned or tune D is gone. Not a finding. Oops. Cyrus. Cyrus the virus. Nope. iNet based telnet. We definitely don't have telnet server. This is not there. NTP date. Don't see it. So compliant. We don't have telnet. We definitely don't have telnet server. So that's gone. And that also means that this one's gone because there's no SSL compliant telnet. And telnet is just a shit show. So don't use it. RPC bind. You can use telnet for one thing in the environment. Does anybody know what it is? There's one thing you can reasonably use telnet for. RSH, that's not there. But I don't know that. I have to recheck it. RSH package, not there. I know cups is gone. I got rid of cups. Whoops. Obsolete. rsync. What do you use it for? Freedom. Net SNMP. I know an SNMP's off. Dovecot. Don't see it. Damn it. Signet D. I know this one's gone. BSFTPD should be gone. Yep, gone. Telnet server is gone. DHCP, we'll leave that for now. Bind, leave that for now. OpenLDAP. We're not using OpenLDAP, but Quagga's gone. Squid is not there. So Squid is definitely not there. Samba is there, but I don't think we're using it. Nginx is not there. Mother effer. That's just popping up. That just pops up every now and then. I have no idea why it starts doing it, and I have no idea why it stops doing it after a while. The Avi packages are gone, although I don't see them there. TFTP server, gone. Talk, I don't see it there, but I'm sure it's gone. Send mail, NFS utils. So NFS utils is weird. Sometimes you need it. You need NFS utils if you're going to mount NFS in an environment. And actually, now that I think about it, in this environment, Weka is based on NFS. I don't know all the underpinnings of it, but I do know it's based on NFS. So I'm probably going to leave that, and I gotta go look at my server for a bunch of these. So I'm going to leave these. Oh wait, send mail. Where did send mail? I know that this one's gone because I passed the check over there. It's not finding. GSS proxy package was up near the top, and I know that we definitely deleted that. And actually, technically, if that one's gone, NFS utils isn't going to work anyways. So, IP serve. Yeah, that one's gone too. Not a finding. Boom. Remove all filters. All right. It's good enough on that one for now. Let's get this out of the way. Just keep working down through them. Aid are all gone. All the audit tools are gone. Crypto libraries are gone. The McAfee stuff is weird. We don't put unused in this environment. We don't put McAfee on Linux boxes. So I'm very surprised that this is a Stig. This is called a host intrusion prevention system, but HIPS is that's another form of firewall. So exception firewalls not configured. And you might say, but host intrusion prevention is not quite a firewall, but it is. It's actually almost the definition of one if you think about it. But at the end of the day, not a finding. All right. Need to make sure some things are installed. So let's get rid of all this and say installed. So there's things that we want to have installed on the system. So let's go up here. Just keep hammering away at these. And there's certain things that we want installed on the system. So the GNU utils, I need to make sure that those are there. I'll go copy I got my little thing over here. Boom, pass the check. Because I see it right there. Where's it at? Right there. All right. NSS utils, bam, there. See them right there. NSS tools. Updating software. So software patches are system is configured for routine patching as required by sysadmins. Right, whenever they want to do it. So that's not a finding because you don't just... And by the way, there's certain things in the STIGs that are like, oh, just set the thing to patch itself all the time. Oh, hell no. There's no system admin, system engineer that will ever take that kind of instability in the system. Like I can't be responsible for the uptime of a system if we're just pouring new system tools onto it all the time. And we're constantly updating and configuring. So we can't do it. Not to mention the fact that dynamic libraries for users don't change until users leave and come back in. So all those user processes are using old versions of libraries. I assure you, you will get your system in some wildly strange configurations if you just constantly patch things. Now, patching things during like maybe the week and then rebooting servers at the end of the month or rebooting servers once every 3 months when kernel patches occur, that's pretty routine nowadays in the industry. But most people don't ever see it because we take our servers and we make them highly available by doing reverse proxies to them, which any reverse proxy with multiple connections back is what we call a load balancer, right? Just a load balancer is a way to have a bunch of systems back-ended, obfuscated from what you can see. You can't ever see what's going on with my systems, and I can take servers down and bring them back up and never lose availability. I can still have a very high uptime without affecting anything in my maintenance window, right? Like, you don't even know when I'm doing maintenance. Actually, that is a goal. From a security standpoint, we don't want people to know when we change guard shifts, right? That's one of the worst things around. Like you see in the movies, they're like, oh, this is when the guard shift happens. You never let people know when the guard shift change happens. That's the thing. Gosh. All right. NSS log rotate is installed. Log rotate's there. Definitely there. Log rotation's there. I checked it. Audit dispatcher. We don't have a requirement for that. Ensure LDAP client is not installed, so I don't see LDAP on there. We'll skip that. Postfix package. I'm pretty sure I don't have. I definitely don't have a requirement for postfix, but snail? No. But it is installed, so screw it. As long as my check passed, I don't care. Crony? Well, we do have Crony installed, so that's good. And that's part of the... Crony is the tool that has replaced NTP for the most part in there. Yeah. Yeah, Linux is pretty stable in general. I mean, I build very stable systems, but it's because I don't let people update them. We test our updates in a lower environment. We do all this stuff, and then we roll forward when we're ready. But, all right. Spinning my wheels. Let's knock out. Let's see if we can knock out some of these other ones. Remove filters. RNG tools are there. Hardware. Those are both passed. I see those here. Let's go. Move all filters. Core utils. Core utils are already handled. USB guard. Actually, we don't have a requirement to do this, but if the USB guard package is already there, we're just going to say that we have passed those. So we see that USB guard package is there and it's set up in the way you want. Like, did you update the OpenSHRC bug for your local machine or way? Freedom DAO, I didn't, but I also knew that there was an immediate workaround, which is just make sure. Well, and most of us all, if you had your Stig set up right, it was already not a problem. But if you already had back off timers on login attempts, it didn't matter. So that bug that came out that scared a bunch of people didn't scare anybody that had their system set up right. So just so you know, like if your buddies were running around going, if you read what it actually did, the fix was just to set a back off timer. And most everybody had that set. If anybody that was posting anything out towards the world should have had that already set. So it was almost like it was like a check to make sure people were doing the shit that they should have. Let's go Python utils. All right, we don't need that. Libre Swan, we don't need that. Let's just check. Look for Swan. We have it. It's good. Paste the comments. It's already checked, and it's there. Boom. Fix is basically them admitting that open. Well, let me tell you how Spectre and Meltdown work then. Spectre and Meltdown still aren't fixed. They're patched out, but you could still, yeah. Go look at that. That's a hardware bug. That's a hardware bug that'll always be there until that hardware is replaced. Anyways, let's go plugins. Plugins, auditing, audits. Plugin is there. Default plugins for. These are good. Also, we don't care necessarily about auditing in this environment, so these don't matter anyways, but I also have the package right there, plugins, so good. Let's remove this, and then we'll go to our filter, and we know Tmux doesn't need to be there. Subscription. Install subscription manager package, it's there, so not a finding. Boom. And then I need to check this, there's this other one. Oops, remove all filters. Let's go to... This isn't actually needed. Yeah, not needed. Anything TLS falls under certificates, and PKI infrastructure is not needed in this environment because of the assumptions we have allow us not to have that. Okay. So I'm going to remove these filters, and let's just go grab, so boot. So this one fails, verify interactive boot is disabled, but this exception, this is not needed in a stateless cluster environment. So in a stateless cluster environment, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to have that set. So not a finding. Log D we don't have, so there's no requirement. Exception. No requirement for idle logout. Not in this environment. Not in this air-gapped environment. Yeah, this is not exception. Not needed in this environment. Boom. You guys see that? Yeah, okay. It's like I'm typing right behind my head. Yeah, I can't. These systems will not boot to single user mode. They simply won't do it. So, like it's like a there's like a the Stig is cool and the Stig is useful, but the Stig doesn't take into account that this environment literally doesn't work that way. Isobu, yeah, I hopped back on because I just had to talk to my boss for like 30 minutes earlier, and he wanted to debrief me on something. So I hopped back on. I'm just kind of hanging out. I'm cleaning up these Stigs. Look, I'm getting them. I'm like almost halfway. I'm just gonna keep knocking them out, and then I've got a meeting at like 4 p.m. tomorrow my time with some guys out in Hawaii. So for them, it's only gonna be 1 p.m. And I'm just gonna show them all this. Show them basically that we've cleaned up the systems to a certain set Stig profile, that we've gotten them cleaned up. I could just show them all this, but what I want to do is actually disposition everything and give them a better number. That's the kind of goal of this. And I think that this will look at whatever. Here's the thing about Stigs: no matter what you do, the actual government people are going to come and Stig their stuff anyways and verify. So me doing a report, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, you got 90 and 91%. And then the next thing will be, oh yeah, well, yeah, we see, they're going to say, they're going to run their scan and it's going to get very similar to mine. It's going to be like 76%. But then there's going to be all these manual ones, and hopefully they'll come and look at how I've dispositioned them. And then they'll come to the same conclusion that we're at about 91%, which is about what I got to the other day. There's like 28 that I won't be able to do because they're just different technology. This is a Rocky 9.3 environment, and that is a the Stig standard is for Rel 9, so they're slightly different, but they're close enough that it's still pretty good. Let's go back here. Let's look for grub. All of these grub ones, all of these grub bootloaders, exception, stateless, node configurations, handle grub. Right, so grab all that, and then that's up and down the board. The way all of this happens doesn't matter. I'm gonna undo these ones. Hold on. That's wonderful. Screw it. I don't know what the hell that thing was doing. That was super weird right there. Boot. Can I unselect all? Alright, well. System has decided to no longer play. Almost feel like I held my control key down too long or something, and it did some kind of weird, because it's no longer highlighting anything. So that's no good. Let's save my checklist. right? 15th July. There we go. Just in case anything breaks, I don't want this thing to break all over the place on me. Let's get rid of all our filters. Yeah. I literally don't care about that. Wonderful. And this thing just stops working. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this thing, but that's definitely not fun when your tool just starts taking a shit for no reason. Sudo. I literally can't select anything anymore. This is wonderful. Wonderful. Alright. That might be where I call it. I was just going to try to get to an hour and we did it. We've saved the checklist, so hopefully I'll be able to open it tomorrow with no problems and then just be able to run through and keep working on this. Actually, you know what? Might be a good, well, say it might be a good time to export it all or whatever. Yeah, you know what's fun? Freedom DAO, I haven't messed with anything with like ChatGPT or any of the GPT tools or any of that stuff. Never played with them. I built some large language models in Fisherman's Labs, and I think I have a thing up where I was reading about some large language. Yeah, I was looking at this thing earlier. Olama. I was playing with Olama, which if you guys haven't played with Olama, it's a pretty cool little tool, and you can just run different tools. So I was looking at some of the different tools that they had open that you could use, right? And then for any of you guys that run your own systems, you could then just hit them as APIs and call and get data and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And some of our guys use them to talk to people in our Discord. So if you hang out down in the Discord, it'll like, and you can do a bunch of questions and stuff. Yeah, I haven't played with Llama 3. I've only played with Olama. And then I think the Tiny Llama is the model we use because it's a smaller server. But interesting. Yeah, and you can run this. You can run this in your own home lab if you have it. So if you have the horsepower to do it. So I'm interested to see what's the minimum. They have just this. Do they have any minimums for this? Yeah, and then you run it as basically the same. Interesting. That's actually kind of cool. FastCon. I have one of the guys in my doctoral program. They asked a couple of classes ago, "What are you guys doing to like facilitate your research and stuff?" And me, I'm just basically going and like searching stuff in the library. And one of our guys was like, "Oh yeah, I have something that's scraping all of the library, all of Google Scholar, all of this, all of that. It's automatically going and doing ChatGPT to annotate the articles for me. It's taking all their metadata tags and then giving me summaries and telling me, and it's also, I think it's also generating as, because we use APA for our formatting, like our references and stuff. It's also generating as APA or finding it on the thing. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of high speed. And he's like, oh yeah, I have like 15,000 things already. And I'm like, oh, I don't have 15,000 things. I have like 5. Well, no, I'd say I think realistically I have like 25 to like 30 articles that I'm gonna be using in my actual final project. Yeah, but you know what? I have students that are like doing all this interesting stuff and pushing all these like posts in our chat in the class where I teach college, and I have to keep reminding them, like, guys, like this is irrelevant. I mean, look, when you're trying to learn something, using ChatGPT to maybe go out and like grab stuff and maybe generate some code for you and like that kind of stuff, like Copilot and stuff. That stuff's brilliant. Like that's a good way to use your time and your tools or whatever. But if you're using it to do what you think is the learning and then publishing the work back to like a college or something, I would tell you, all right, well let's go fucking lift weights in the gym, and you're gonna get in there and you're gonna be like, yeah, I can, I got a 400-pound bench. So I'll be like, I don't give a shit how much your bench is, and I'd wheel my forklift in there, and I would just lift that weight for 3 hours straight with a fucking forklift, and be like, where you at, human? You see what I'm saying? But then you'd be like, yeah, but you didn't get any stronger, and I'd be like, and you didn't get any smarter. So my point is, like, when you're learning stuff, I'm not saying you shouldn't use something like that to help you, but like, don't use that to turn in your assignments, because then you're no different than like Ripley picking up the shit in Aliens. If you remember, she was picking up the stuff and moving all the boxes around with that little exoskeleton thing. That didn't make her any stronger. Well, it wasn't designed to either, but neither is using all this stuff. So my point is, like, I think the best way I've heard it said was Fisherman said it. Fisherman Guybro is one of our guys that hops on, and he streams sometimes, and he's the one that wrote the lab on it. And he the way he put it was this: he's like, it's a really useful, like almost like a junior admin sitting over his shoulder that can go run and get stuff for him. That's what it is. It goes and it grabs stuff, and he asks it stuff all the time about AWS stuff because he's a sysad or a solutions architect for him. And he said half the time it's wrong, but it at least goes and gives him something to start. So I like that. Yeah, in my college classes, my students are just dumping firstly and secondly and lastly, and they're like these fucking and I'm like, you're not learning anything. You let that thing write it completely for you. One of my students the other day turned in something. I have never seen that many errors in a student's post, and it was AI generated. I don't know if she was like, and to put some errors in there. So then it was like the OSI model, and then the next sentence was the ISO model. Now look, the ISO Standards Organization does publish the OSI model, so I see how something could be confused if it was reading it and didn't understand it. But a student should have caught that shit. Also, it just had like weird like letters that didn't make any sense, and she didn't even like, she just copied and pasted it. And I'm like, what the hell? Oh, I'm like, how do I reach these kids? But anyways, they're not kids; they're college students. But same thing. All right, this thing's just effing busted over here. It's super annoying. Why is this so annoying? All right. I don't know what I did to it to make it not work, but I know that it's definitely not working right now. Oh, so now it did it. Unless something's just sucking up all the memory again, which is also equally likely. Chrome over here just munching on memory. Select the other tool. All right. Yeah, large language models do have a lot of capabilities. Yeah. I just don't play with them much. And look, guys, again, I think they're fine for using as like a second admin or second set of eyes and stuff. But man, if you're just using it to do all your thinking for you, I guarantee you're not going to learn anything from it. You're just like, send it over to my college professor so he can grade me. That's lazy, and people, I don't know. You don't change. Hate to say this, but it's true. You really don't change without some effort, right? Like, that's just kind of a thing. Colorman said, I want to wrap up an LM that's capable of answering basic things and deploy it on a free cloud service like Netlify renderer and use it as a free LLM API, but this is kind of impossible. Yeah, Colorman, and if you did do something like that, people would probably abuse it anyways, so that's always bad, right? That's one of the unfortunate things in general about giving any resource out. People will always abuse it in some way. You'll always have somebody messing around instead of using something like you intended, Yeah, this whole system is wonderfully busted right now. So that's always fun. Save our checklist down. Maybe I'll figure out what's going on here. All right, I got to drop off here, but I will see most of you guys tomorrow. We'll be doing more Linux stuff, probably less stigging, more building our lab stuff out, and probably writing some of our some of the lab book, getting the lab book a little more organized. We have a good number of labs in there now, but I'd like to even update it a little bit more. API key should solve that problem with free tier machines around 500 megs of RAM, which is not enough. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Colorman. Yep. Yeah, Isobu. Well, this is me working, actually. I was working on stream here. So I didn't... I mean, if I didn't make that clear, I was actually working a little bit right now. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys all coming by. I will talk to, again, some of